From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is ParksCenter. With snazzy new graphics to boot. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. My name's Ben, and joining me on tonight's show we have Allison.
Hello everyone.
Jill.
Hello.
Rob.
Hey guys, what's up?
And the one responsible for those snazzy graphics, Tyler.
Graphics!
Oh, come on. We're doing all right. Everybody's got to do it together. 1, 2, 3. Sivako! And now everybody knows the delay we're working with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, today is Earth Day, and also coincidentally, Animal Kingdom opened on this day in 1998, and this episode is episode number 98 of ParksCenter. So I find this really neat how those numbers lined up like that. Points to Rob for catching that one earlier this week. We've got
now?
What?
We get points now? That's awesome.
I mean, Patrick's not doing his show. I'll just take it.
I know. Yeah. Sorry.
So we've got two big discussion topics tonight. The first one that we're going to start off with is just kind of like a broad, like, happy birthday Animal Kingdom. Everybody, let's just kind of like, honestly, let's gush about Animal Kingdom for a bit here. I honestly, I'll say I was not a big fan of the park when it opened. As somebody with a lot of like allergy issues, like a zoo-like park, it's not a zoo. I understand, it's not a zoo.
Not a zoo.
But it has some zoo-like elements, we'll say. It's not a roller coaster, but it has roller coaster-like elements. This is not a zoo, but it has zoo-like. It wasn't my cup of tea when the park first started. But ever since they added Everest. And the entirety of Pandora is absolutely gorgeous. And that's gotten me to go into the park more, which has gotten me to see the rest of the park more, and made me really appreciate it a bit more since then as well. Some more of the animal exhibits and everything like that. It took me a while to come around to it. But honestly, I think Animal Kingdom is one of the stronger parks Disney has at this point.
Yeah,
hey, so
it's right on there. Go ahead.
Allison.
Sorry, Rob.
No, Rob, go ahead, Rob.
Okay, well, I was just going to say, so like starting back at the beginning of it, we went very shortly afterwards, and I felt the same way you did, Ben. I felt like it was like hot. It was crowded because they were trying to make it feel like you were in the jungle. So the pathways didn't seem large enough for the crowds that were there. And if you didn't know what you were looking for, you didn't know about all the exhibits that were in there. You just were in there to see the main attractions like Kilimanjaro Safari. So I didn't love it at the beginning, but I'm with you, man. I'm a huge fan now. I do miss some of the cool little things that they used to have, like Pocahontas and her forest friends. That was a fun little show. I liked that one with the little animals. That was fun. Yeah. Tarzan Rocks. I thought that was a pretty fun show. That was not there when it opened. It was Jungle Book when it opened, but then they did Tarzan Rocks, and it was like a little X Games with the music of Phil Collins. So that was pretty cool. And I think it's got so much more potential though, and I feel like the fact that we're still waiting for something Zootopia to be there, it seems like a no-brainer. I really wish that would happen. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I right now it's one of my favorites to go to. I love Satuli. Pete Safari is a fun place to go eat. I like Yak and Yeti. It's just a really cool vibe. It feels very different from any other Disney park. So. Allison, sorry to step on you like that.
Well, I'm going to step on Allison again and hand this to Tyler, because you mentioned Tarzan Rocks, and I believe, Tyler, you watched that this morning.
Oh, God. Yeah. We did some Animal Kingdom watch-alongs this morning. We watched the opening day celebration, which was, Ben, we could have watched that on Ride Rehab Watches. It was so funny. And then we watched Tarzan Rocks, which about like halfway through we're like, where's Tarzan? and we were like, it was just so bizarre. But then we watched Jungle, what was it called? Something Journey into Jungle Book? No, gosh, no. It was Journey into Jungle Book, which feels like there should be a the somewhere. Journey
Yeah,
into the
it
Jungle
does,
Book,
doesn't
but
it?
anyways, we watched that and we were talking about the amount of sexism for having shirtless, muscular men just jumping around stages, but yet Jasmine has to wear more clothing than she does in the movie, and the whole chat was just like completely agreeing with everything, and it was bizarre. It's bizarre shows. And then you said Pete Safari, and I'm like, isn't that where they had the hamburger flatbread that Tom hated so much? Which we also watched. Not to completely step on or ruin what Rob thinks about it. Like, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I was just
but one of the things, though, when
thought
you
it was
say about
hilarious.
Tarzan Rocks was a neat show at the time to be, like, there was stuff going on all around you. You guys were watching it from afar, like, 20 years later? So, I mean, a lot of that's going to look a little ridiculous. But at the time, Tarzan was a hot movie. That song, the music from Phil Collins was good. And just like, the stuff happening all around you, I mean, it was surrounding you. It was a theater in the wild. The walls weren't up yet. It wasn't air conditioned. That was kind of a bummer. And it was a huge step up from that Jungle Book fiasco. But the Jungle Book thing was only supposed to be there temporarily because Asia didn't open up in time. So, it was a neat show for what it was. And I enjoyed it. So I thought it was cool. But Pete Safari is one of those that I think I've never done the cheeseburger flatbread, but that was one of those things where it was always a meal that the whole family enjoyed when we went. It was quality, like, counter service, right? So that was a neat thing to do. Now I would always pick Satuli over Pete Safari, but I mean, it's not trash garbage. I will fight Tom on that one if I have to.
Can we talk about what is actually awesome about Animal Kingdom and not shows that don't exist anymore and not like a completely mediocre counter service?
Let Allison speak.
Yes, it's been we've stepped on you multiple times. Please.
It's okay, but I was good. Well, first of all, Tarzan Rocks is like the greatest show that Disney has ever put on. And there's so much energy from those inline skaters are doing gymnastics around you. It is so wildly entertaining, and you're swept up in it. I miss it so much. And so, unfortunately, I was going to focus on what was there and how it's really grown into like an amazing park. I was there in July of '98, so that's just opened Earth Day of '98, so it's just a couple of months after it opened, and it had, I think, 4 rides. One of which was Countdown to Extinction, of course, which was amazing. One was the Discovery Riverboats, which was really problematic, and then of course, like, the headlining attraction was there. And then there was a train. I think those are the only things that moved, right? Only one of these 4 was in an air-conditioned building, and with the crowds and it being July, it felt so unbelievably hot that it was like, this is a really difficult park to be in, and I think that has created this this perpetual rumor about this park being like the hotter than all the other parks. So yes, because like for 10 years there's like 2 places you could go into for air conditioning for any length of time, and that was difficult. But so much has changed, and I wasn't a fan of it. I could appreciate the art of it and the conservation theme, which was so beautifully integrated from the beginning and has continued to be as they've added more things. But now it can spend multiple days going to that park, and that's really remarkable considering where we started.
Yeah. Like I distinctly. Go ahead. Yeah, you haven't had a chance.
I was just going to say, I feel like Animal Kingdom is the most underrated park. I tell people Animal Kingdom is my favorite park, and they look at me like I'm crazy, and they also question my loyalty because I don't say Epcot. But I just feel like this park has so much to offer. And, to Rob's point about like, there's so many hidden little things that you miss them. I think that's part of the appeal, that there's constantly stuff you can stumble across and enjoy and appreciate, especially for, those of us who are pretty avid park goers and go frequently. What you start to enjoy as you kind of rack up your visits is those hidden things, those little animal exhibits, or getting to walk around the paths around the Tree of Life. But also, I feel like this park has so much kind of, because the headline attraction has such incredible rewritability, like it has lasted the test of time better than maybe any like headlining park attraction, simply because every single time you go, you have a different experience. And there's always things like, I have so many different stories of having an amazing time on the safari. And you've got shows that have lasted the test of time. You know, Festival of the Lion King was there when the park opened, and though it's changed and it's moved, it's still there. Finding Nemo the musical has been there since Asia opened 14 years ago, and it's still amazing, and it's still there, and with a lot of the same actors playing the same roles. So I feel like Animal Kingdom has this sort of, it's very earthy in the sense that it has this lasting sort of, you know, solid feel to it, because there's, even in times where there weren't things that were great, you know, there was still there were still things that were amazing. So the great things kind of always counteracted the handful of stuff that wasn't great. And then when they opened Pandora, I think they knocked it out of the park with that. And then it gives people this whole other new amazing experience. And so now like people used to joke that Animal Kingdom wasn't a full day park. Now it absolutely is. And it's still full of all these, you know, experiences that will always be different every time, whether you go on the jungle trek and see the tigers, and this time you get to see the baby tigers, or they're up and running around, or whatever, you know, it's always going to be different, and it's always going to impress you, because it's nature, and it's these majestic wild animals that you get to see in a habitat, in an environment unlike anything else. And I think it's awesome.
Not to mention the fact that they always have like new animals arriving in there. Like I believe earlier this week they had a new baby zebra join the herd. So
and a giraffe was born the same week as my daughter.
Oh, cool!
Oh,
last year I remember we had the birth announcement simultaneously.
That may have been the giraffe that they couldn't get off of the safari, and so like safari guests got to see a giraffe giving birth.
That's correct.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That's correct.
Wouldn't you pay extra for that kind of thing?
Oh,
you would, but in Kilimanjaro safaris, you don't have to.
So one thing Disney doesn't do an upcharge for.
I thought you were going to bring up an image of a giraffe being
no. No. I will bring that up though. That's adorable. Thank you, Animal Kingdom.
Speaking of,
speaking of natural, I guess. Let's move on to the second half of tonight's discussion. How has the Disney Company? What has the Disney Company done, like for the environment, for making people feel more connected to the Earth, to just Disney and Earth Day? Put them together and sell me on it. I've got a few. I think everybody else has got a couple. I'll go first.
Go for it, Ben.
So let's see here. So the three that I came up with that I kind of want to highlight are just the sheer number of solar panels that they use throughout Walt Disney World, and that they keep adding to the property. Like they had them back on the Universe of Energy Pavilion in Epcot I think it was when it first opened, wasn't it? Like that
yes,
opened with the pavilion. And they've continued to this day, and they're still going to be there with Guardians. That they will come back. They have the mount points on the roof of the building at this point. They're bringing the panels back. They've got that brand new solar farm, or not brand new, I guess it's about a year or two old at this point. But the Mickey shaped solar farm. They've got the new McDonald's they're putting in has solar panels on the roof of that. Like they're doing a decent chunk of renewable energy there, which really makes me excited to see. There's also the Disney Wilderness Preserve, which is also it kind of started as, I believe, Disney trying to justify some of the land that they were buying and using for development. They set aside a good chunk of it to be used as a wilderness preserve. so that part of the land would remain untouched, which is something that, like, at least as far as I know, not a lot of other parks or anything like that really do. They don't, like, say, all right, we're gonna build like SeaWorld, but we're gonna make sure that we take like a fifth of the size of SeaWorld and also donate that, so that we don't ruin the environment here too hard. Which I think it's really cool of them to doing that, especially when Disney has such a massive amount of land in the first place. And then the other thing I came up with, it's a little niche, and I figured nobody else here would kind of harp on this one, is Disney sanitation. Like, you don't find trash on the ground. There's no litter in the parks because they pick up your litter for you and also encourage you to throw it out yourselves. Please do save them time and effort. But there's no litter on the ground. There's nothing for like the wild animals to eat other than what they should be eating. They do an especially big job of this in in Animal Kingdom, where they've had the paper straws for longer than it has been hip to do so. So they've been doing a good job with staying on top of like litter in the parks and making sure that the wildlife and the not so wildlife don't get hurt by what tourists leave laying around. So those are my highlights.
Ben, how many solar farms do they have on grounds? They have at least the Mickey-shaped one and one other, right?
Yeah, they have one normal one and one Mickey one. I don't know if they have a third or not, but I know that the Mickey one is massive.
Yeah, but then they have solar installations in like smaller other places.
Yeah. A lot of the road signs are solar.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I have my short list. One is the Disney buses all run on it's cooking oil and like bio waste. So like,
oh, neat.
Biodegraded food. Like all of their buses run on recycled fuel, which I think is pretty impressive because buses can be quite an environmental pollutant when you're running on diesel or something like that. So they had actually tried to move towards electric buses, and they figured out that these recycled fuel buses actually were more efficient, and it's their entire bus fleet. Another thing that I think is cool is the lasers that they used in illuminations, RAP illuminations, like were LED lasers and like low energy lasers that basically took the energy of like four coffee pots to run the lasers during illumination. Like they were incredibly like low energy, and there's a lot of that. Like most lighting in Disney is LED, so that it's a much lower energy consumption. And the other thing that and this isn't like a huge thing that's making a big difference per se on like a massive scale, but it's certainly, I think, making a difference on an individual scale, is I love that you can do so much at Animal Kingdom that is, you know, the VIP behind the scenes tours that really connect you with the environment. I've done a couple of the sort of the little ones. You know, I haven't done, you know, the big jungle trek or anything like that, but I did the Caring for Giants with the elephants, and I did the rhino tour when they first opened that up. And it's just such an amazing experience that you get to go and basically like you spend an hour hanging out with these animals. You know, with the elephants, you don't get to get up close, but with the rhinos, you get to get up and actually physically touch a rhinoceros, which how many times you get to do that in your life? And you just learn so much about the animal. You learn so much about how it's threatened in the wild, generally by humans, and you get to learn about what Disney's doing in conjunction. And they don't just talk about themselves, they talk about how they work in conjunction with so many other wildlife rescue and animal welfare type organizations around the world to protect these animals. And it's just, you know, it gives you such a personal experience that makes it so much more impactful. And, you know, that's so much of what Disney does. They make this immersive experience, and they do that with their conservation as well. And then when you leave that experience and you get to go back out into Animal Kingdom and feel like you are in the animals environment, I think it just gives you on a personal level so much more appreciation and respect for the animals and for what Disney is trying to do for them.
So let me piggyback on that then, or not.
No, go ahead.
There was just a long pause. Sorry. The Wild Africa Trek. I have actually done that one, and it is a very, like Jill was talking about the other tours. They very much talk about conservation and how to protect the animals with that. And one of the things from that tour is at the very end, they give you a rock, and you find out about all the different types of conservation funds that they support. And you take a rock and you put it in the one that you want to donate some of the money that you paid back into whatever that conservation fund is. So that was kind of a neat thing, just again to say, hey, I'm actually kind of giving back and making a difference to these animals that we've gotten to see here. All the stuff that they do with the conservation, like with the wilderness guides as you go through the park, that's a really cool thing that ties everything together. So definitely Animal Kingdom is tied into that. But I feel like Epcot has always had that too, with their kind of edutainment philosophy that they've had, and especially like when I think of Universe of Energy and Ellen's Energy Crisis, both kind of talk about how we need to be doing more to help the environment and find different ways to fuel our lives. And so I think that they've been doing it for a long time, and whether it's part of the PR side of we have to be giving back to show that we're good, I'd like to believe it's just because they want to do good. When I've been to D23, they have like the volunteers booth where you go through and they walk through some kind of volunteer act that they have you do, and then they'll give you something afterwards for helping out. So I feel like they've got a lot of different programs that help not just the planet, but the people of the planet. So, I mean, that's, again, I don't know of another company that does it at this level.
Yeah. Their volunteering program is really something that you don't hear a ton about, but it is actually pretty big. They do a lot of good work. If you go digging into that, they've done a bunch of different public works projects and things like that.
Yeah.
When I think of my top three, I think less about what Disney is doing overall for the Earth and more about like when I feel really connected to nature or motivated to protect the environment in the parks. And my number one, and I know Jess Figueroa would wholeheartedly agree with this because she also loves it, or loved it because it's sadly gone, Circle of Life, an environmental fable, which was a beautiful film promoting responsibility for taking care of the earth. It had in its queuing waiting area too, the beloved wall carpet, and it didn't matter that was really no longer, a carpet in general has really gone out of fashion over the last 2 decades, but it didn't matter. They left it up, which I think is very environmentally friendly of them. But the show itself was just like, it was just so beautiful and moving, and I had seen it so many times, but every single time I would get a little verklempt and have a tear in my eye, and I would leave really motivated to take action. And I think that the best films can do that, but it's really hard to do that in like an 11-minute show, and it should do that. My other top two are food related, because I think one of the things that we do in our house is we have a vegetarian household. It's one of the ways we try to curb carbon emissions and at least do our individual part. And there are some like really great options for connecting to your health through your food at Disney World, and one of them is Satuli Canteen. When that opened, and you have like grain bowls with really nutritious foods that are coming from the earth. The whole purpose of the menu was to make you feel connected to nature, and I feel that there, and that ties into like Epcot 1982, living with the land and learning about different methods of growing plants. So that's my third and final piece, which is the living with the land, specifically the hydroponics. And if I could just plug, we've had some like really cool content on the website recently, and this is an opening year teacher's guide to the land pavilion and all of the work that got. Here's the pioneering space agriculture, all of all of the things that they were doing. And I believed for several decades, and probably just till embarrassingly a few years ago, that of course any of the food that I was consuming at like the Coral Reef restaurant was coming from the hydroponic plant, because I wanted to believe that. But it is one way. It makes you really think about what you're eating, and like even when they do indeed come out of gigantic bags when they're going to give you a salad, but it still comes from the earth somewhere, and it makes you think about like your body, what fuels it, and how that has some impact on the environment.
Yeah, if you've never done the behind the seeds tour, the emphasis on seeds, SEEDS, that's sorry, my mic can jumble. It's a really good tour. I think I've done it twice now. It's been a while since I've done it, but it's really cool to be able to like just poke around the greenhouse back there. They've got so much cool stuff growing, and you really get to like look at this and go like, maybe this works. Maybe it really does work.
Yeah, and it's only like $25, and it only takes an hour. That's
Yeah.
the other thing too. Is a lot of times when you're on vacation and there are these huge tours and they take up the whole day in addition to your park ticket. That's a little bit much. But this one, it's a very easy and doable experience, and I agree with you. It is definitely worth the money and the time you spend, and it's something extra special, and it's neat to see the behind the scenes. I was going to say one thing based on what Allison said. It reminded me that there used to be a teachers center at Epcot where teachers could go and get resources for their classes. And my wife was a teacher, and she found out about it, and we went there. And if you go, well, I guess you can't anymore, but in the Art of Disney store on the right-hand side when you're going up past Spaceship Earth, when you walked right in, there was a stairway up to the side that had a like a velvet rope or something on it. That was the teacher center. You go upstairs, it was the entire upper floor, and they had people up there to help you and ask you what your curriculum was and give you paperwork and pamphlets. And man, if that was happening like, in the past couple of years, I'd have been up there like, Tom Corliss and taken 8 copies of everything so that I could have them. But I mean, it was a free service, and it was just really neat. And again, talk about giving back, to the community. That was a really neat thing to be able to share.
Man, that's a shame I'm finding out about that now. My mom homeschooled me and homeschools my sister a little bit. We could have gone in there and raided the place. Daggone.
You were talking about tours before, and I don't know if anyone's done the Backstage Magic one, but It sounds not that interesting. But they take you to the laundry facilities where everything for all the hotels are washed and cleaned. And when you see how big that is, that I know it's such a trivial thing to ask, like, oh, do you want to not get your laundry washed for the 5 days you're here? Like, that really affects a lot. If a lot of people sign up for that, the amount of water that it saves, not just for you, but for across the entire property for every single room and all the hotels, it saves an incredible amount of water. And that is 1,000% something people should do. That's something that hotels do in general. But I remember at Disney, they were ready to offer you a $50 gift card if you were there for a week. So you should, people should get on that. That's a huge environmental impact, especially given how much sheets and fabrics need to be washed at the parks. But that's an incredible one. And yeah, the behind the scenes tour is really, really great to understand the agriculture that goes into the food that you're eating at the parks, and especially all the vegetables and fruits that grow. And not only it's just a great tour, but it gets you a little bit closer to the nature. But I mean, we talked about this right before the show started. I certainly think that a company like Disney could do way more, but I think what they have done is already such a huge step forward, especially with stuff like the solar panels, where I think the number was that one of those solar panel fields is able to power one of the parks for a day. And so the more they build of those, the more it completely powers things without having to rely on other types of energy.
Yeah, and I mean, they're doing I totally agree that there's probably more a company that size could be doing, but the fact that they're so invested in doing so much, like while they could do more, they're clearly doing, head and shoulders above what a lot of other companies do. Even from they have a bunch of initiatives now, like reducing the amount of garbage that they send to landfills, where they're trying to basically like their ideal is zero waste, and I'm sure that's never going to happen in a place like Disney, but they're trying to get as close to it as they can. The difference to me is that there's a clear ethical commitment to it. Like they believe in the importance of being good to the environment, of trying to preserve, of trying to reduce our impact on the environment. And they're operating in ways that may not always be the most cost effective for them, but they're still doing it. Building a solar farm is a huge investment, and you can argue, well, they're going to get so much of their power from it, but it's going to take a long time for that investment to pay off. But they're still willing to make it because they believe in the principle that they should be using renewable energy and doing as much as they can to reduce the impact that they're having.
Yeah. Also, the Walt Disney Company, with how large it is, gets to be a bit of a trendsetter. If they start doing these things and it works out for them, other companies can look at that and say, they're successful with this strategy. Why can't we do the same thing? So if they're building solar panels and making these investments like that, other companies might follow suit. So points for pushing the window of what's acceptable in the right direction.
I will say I find it interesting that I think it's something that Disney does really well, and I think guests feel is important. And Disney doesn't do as, I don't want to say good of a job, but as big of a job as they could in marketing that and in promoting how much they impact the environment. I think, some of the things we're talking about today, that the buses run on recycled fuels. Most people are not aware of that. And I think a lot more people would, if nothing else, cut the bus system a little bit of slack if they felt like they were, riding a bus that at least was environmentally friendly. So
I think honestly, the reason they don't promote it quite as hard is just because they're afraid of that counterpoint of, yeah, you're doing that, but you should be doing more. So they'd rather not open up the can of worms and just do some good stuff quietly and hope that
that's fair.
They don't ever get called on it, I guess.
We had that whole kind of conversation about what was the motivation for replacing the Land movie with this with Awesome Planet, which is nowhere near as
awesome.
It's nowhere near as awesome as what came before, and nowhere near as emphatic about making an impact, like you personally making an impact on the environment. So there's that too, that seems to be them kind of feeling like being too vocal about environmentalism might actually be politically sensitive for them in the current environments. And so they're not talking about it, but they're still doing it.
Yeah. That was a nice, refreshing conversation. Thank you all for that. And while we're thanking people, a big thank you to our WIGs, who are members of the WDWNT Interglobe Society, WIGs for short. You can join us over at patreon.com/WDWNT to help support us, get access to our post show, the post show for News Tonight, and a whole host of other benefits like the full high-def scan of that teacher's guide that we mentioned earlier in the episode, along with a bunch of other high-def scans of old papers, pamphlets, and all that stuff that we've been putting up pretty regularly during this break in coverage. So head on over, check that out, patreon.com/WDWNT if you're interested
also,
in doing that.
If I could do another quick WIGs plug, Ben. Today we just posted, if any of you, and I know some of you in chat have mentioned it, got to see the roast last night. Today, we also posted a video that we had compiled. I think Tyler used a little bit of it in his intro, some of the outtakes and stuff from News Today. But we posted an entire outtake video from Tom doing various recordings of news today. So if you're a Wigs member, you have access to that at any level. It's a lot of fun, and we'll keep the roasting of Tom laughs going a little bit longer. So if you haven't checked it out and you're a Wigs member, go over there and check it out. It's really funny.
Oh gosh, that's beautiful. So right now we are in the middle of WDWNT Live. It's been going pretty strong for a while now. This is our schedule, what we've got coming up. We've been trying to run at least 2 shows a day, and we have been succeeding so far. So let's see. Tomorrow would be Thursday if you're watching this live. At 11 a.m. we've got the Party with Pete, coming back strong from taking a day off to recover after last night, I suppose. No, unfortunately, Pete couldn't join us tonight. He's feeling ill for entirely unrelated reasons. Feel better soon, Pete. But we will see him tomorrow morning, everything willing. 9 p.m. we've got News Tonight, of course, along with the post show for our Wigs, like we mentioned earlier. On Friday, we've got the Wolf Den at 11 a.m. 9 p.m. we've got a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea watch along. I'm thoroughly surprised to see that on the schedule, but I'm looking forward to see what people think of that. April 25th, that's Saturday, we've got Locked In with Eric Morton at 11 a.m. 9 p.m. is the return of Whose Cue Is It Anyway, the show where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Sunday morning at 11 a.m. we've got Colleen's Craft Corner. This time we're going to be making friendship bracelets. Be sure to watch the website for a parts list for that if you want to build along at home. And at 8 p.m. we're going to have another episode of our Pressing Issues show, where we go in depth on topics, and it's a lot closer to the old podcast, if you're familiar, where we go more deeper on topics than we would here. So check that all out. YouTube.com/WDWNT. Subscribe and hit the bell to get notified every time we go live. Be sure to like as well if you like the show. And that is going to do it for this week. If you're a Wigs member, stick around for the post show. Otherwise, we will see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Ba-da-da.